Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Money 2020. Today's Friday the 28th. I just want to tell you that I really look forward to our Friday talks. And this Friday I'm going to continue a subject that I mentioned last week. If you recall, I said I'd come back and talk about employee negotiations. Now, like we said last week, and probably the weeks before, starting a business is not really for everyone. And there's nothing wrong with actually being an employee, and you can actually thrive as being an employee. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. There are certain things you can do as an employee to actually boost your career, certain things you can do to actually go to the next level. And that's what you should always have your mind on as an employee, how to really go to that next level or two levels up. I've always thought, and I was actually, someone told me early in my career, of course I'm not an employee now, but someone told me early in my career, always aim for two levels up. So if you're up for a promotion, you should actually aim for two levels up. When you are being employed for a job, you actually aim for two levels up. So you might be looking at a entry level. Well, interview for two levels up, and don't be afraid to actually interview for a level that's actually above where you are. There are plenty of people who get into positions and they don't have a clue what they're doing, and they kind of feel their way through. Now, if you can sell yourself to get yourself into a position two levels up, you're going to be so much more ahead of the curve. But you just have to go in knowing that, okay, you have to do more work. You're going to have to put the sweat equity in early to get yourself caught up to everybody. And don't be afraid to actually do this. Dive into it, even though you don't have a background in it. Like I said before, plenty of people do that, and you won't be the first. There have been plenty of times in my career where I was thrown into something, didn't have a clue of what it was, but I had to figure it out. I had to do what it took to actually figure it out. So always aim two levels up from where you are. If you're looking at a promotion, aim two levels up. Now, if you don't get it, you'll be one level up. But that's better than where you are currently. But there are certain things that I learned when I was an employee, and I appreciate my employees actually doing some of the things that I actually learned when I was coming up, because I have frank talks with them, and I let them know some of the things they can do to actually become a winning employee. But certain things that I learned early on is the art of negotiating. You're going to have to negotiate as an employee. And it's a foreign concept. Most of the time, an employee, he shows up, and he or she basically does what they're told to do. But you got to look at it a little differently. You're managing the space where you are, right? So in managing that space where you are, you're in control. No one else is in control. Not your boss, not the boss two levels above you. You're in control. If you look at it this way, if you see the position that you want, you have to target that position. You have to let the people know that you're interested in that position. Don't be ashamed to say, okay, I want that job. Even to your boss, two bosses up, three bosses up, you have to let it be known. Look, I want that position. If that position is not there, don't be afraid to make the position. Go to someone and say, okay, I think we need to have this position, and I would be the perfect person for that. This is not, when you're an employee or really in the business world, this is not a time to be bashful. A lot of times we're bashful as employees. We're afraid if we let people know that this is what I want, there's some grand conspiracy, or I'm not a good person, or I'm a conniving person. But no, that's not where it's at. It's all about targeting where you want to be and getting where you want to be. If you got to let somebody know your intentions, let them know your intentions. And there's a reason why you want to do this, especially with those above you. You tell them, hey, look, Well, I think it's not necessarily tell them, but you go to them. This is what I did. I went to them and I did this many times. I actually sat down and say, hey, look, this is the position that I want. What does it take to get there? What does it take for me to get there? And that's an important distinction. What does it take for anybody to get there? But what does it take for you to get there? Because you have a certain set of facts and circumstances surrounding you. You have certain perceptions about who you are, right? So make sure that the conversation is tailored towards what does it take for you to get there, right? But you can't be afraid to have this conversation, right? You just let them know, okay, this is where I want to be. Tell me what it takes to get there, right? There's a reason why you do that. The reason is because you're really going to set up an agreement in the end. It may not be a written agreement, but you're going to set up an agreement. If they say, okay, this is what I expect this person to do in this position, well, they're letting you know, okay, these are the skills that you need to work on to actually get there. Or you might even have those skills, but you just might need to actually broadcast those skills. You might need to do some marketing within your group, your firm, or whatever, to let everybody know that you have these skills. Show people these skills, right? So they're gonna say, look, this is what you need to do. These are the benchmarks that you need to accomplish. This is the type of person that actually is in this position. This is what we're looking for, right? So once you do that, once you understand what it takes to get there, what it takes for you to get there, right? Then it's got to be some type of an agreement. You got to say, okay, well, if I can exceed this expectation, if I can exceed these levels, does that get me there? Am I in the hunt to actually get there? Right? Those are the kind of questions that you must ask, and you gotta really assess yourself every day to see whether you're on track to actually get to that particular point. But you just can't just leave it, right? You just can't have one conversation with your manager or whatever, and just say, okay, this is my goal. This is where I'm trying to be, and if I get there, I'm expected to move to that next level. No, you can't stop there. It's like marketing. You have to always let people know, this is the product that I have. This is the service that I have. This is what I intend to do with my service. So you have to really arrange other meetings, and you have to say, okay, this is where I want it to be. Am I on track? What do I need to get on track? Because what we agreed to is, this is where I want to be at the end of the day, and I want to make sure that next year or 2 years, whatever you set that timetable at, you're going to get there. So you can't take the approach where I'm just going to have this conversation one time, and a year goes by, 2 years go by, because what's going to happen is that person that really is your guy or your lady is actually going to forget. They're not going to be focused on your upward mobility. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have frequent conversations with them. If it means taking them out to lunch, if it means that you have lunch in the office with them, but you're going to have to find a way to get that audience with that person on a frequent basis, to let them know, okay, look, this is what we talked about. This is where I am. Where do I need to be? Do I need to work on this? Do I need to work on that? Hey, look, is there anything you can do to actually make sure it happens for me? And there's some things that you can do to make sure it happens to you. Like I said before, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to people and sell them on the idea. Especially, I don't mean people who can't do anything for you. No, I mean people that can really make decisions for you. You might have to circle the wagons and actually go talk to 3 or 4 other managers to say, look, this is where I want to be. In a year, 2 years, or whatever, this is what I'm doing to actually get there. And you might have to meet with them periodically. But what I'm saying is, it's a battle. You have to keep throwing that ammunition. You have to keep letting them know, okay, look, I have 5 people that I have to let them know that this is where I want to be, and I have to be here at the end of the day. Look, what's that going to do is, by the time it comes to making that decision of who gets promoted, you've already etched it in their mind. You've already put it in their mind. It's just like advertising, right? You know, the person who advertises one time, and I had to learn this too, the person who actually advertises, spend money on advertising dollars just one time or a couple of times, doesn't really get that real bump in revenue. Because to be honest with you, this is what the advertisers tell you. In order for someone to respond to your advertisement, they have to see it. If they can see it 10 times, they will actually make a decision. They will actually move if they've seen it 10 times. Just think about that. It takes 10 times for you to see a commercial in order for the average person to move on that commercial. Now, some commercials are so great that they can get people to stimulate people right away, right? But in most cases, you need to see that commercial about 10 times before you actually do something, before you actually pick up the phone, before you actually visit or whatever. The average is about 10 times. So what that means is there's a lot of advertising budget that you're going to have to spend in order for your advertising campaign to be effective, right? But there are certain things that you can do on a human basis that won't cost you that type of money. You know, like I said before, if you make yourself an employee for a second, if you let all those stakeholders really know where you're trying to be, you know, you're going to have to advertise them over and over and over and over and over. This is what I accomplished. This is where I need to be. This is where I want to be. Let's talk about how to get there. Hey, don't be afraid to use that kind of language, right? We have to get out of the language that we're using. We got to get out of the mentality that we have that somebody's just going to see you working hard and somebody's just going to go over and congratulate you and say, look, here's that nice corner job. It don't work like that. I'm sorry. It does not work like that. And this is where we come up short all the time. It don't work like that. It's an agreement. It's a contract. That contract may not be in writing, but there is an agreement. Look, if he can do this, and he's advertised this to me many times, he's saying, look, this is what he wants, right? If he does this, this is what he's going to get. When it comes to them to make that decision, you're going to be the one that's foremost on everybody's mind because you have demonstrated it over and over and over. And if you get overlooked, don't get pouty. Don't get to a situation where you can't function when everybody sees you and see how disappointed you are. No, don't get to that level, right? You got to go back to those people and say, hey, look, I didn't get it this time. Tell me why I didn't get it. You got to be open. If you look at, let me give you an example. If you look at sports, for example, you look at these wide receivers, right? They're like prima donnas, man. They if they don't get the ball, they go to the sideline, and what do they start doing? They start raising hell, man. They're over there. They're just pouting. They're yelling at people. They go to the coach. They pulling on the coach, bugging the coach or whatever. That guy wants it. He wants it, and no matter, you better do something on your team to make sure that guy gets it. Because if he don't get it, it's going to be problems. And a lot of times these teams they acquiesce to that guy on the sidelines that's pouting. Most times it's the wide receiver. This pouting because he passes. He's not getting the touch. I mean, you got to be the same way, but what about the attitude, of course? But if you don't get it, you got to go back and say, hey, look, why didn't I get it? Why aren't you passing the ball to me? Why aren't you considering me for the promotion? This is what we talked about, and I want to make sure that I'm on track next time to get it. So, you know, it's about getting out of your comfort zone. It's about getting rid of the fear, right? That person is a man or woman just like you are. Don't be afraid to go to them and tell them, hey, look, this is where I want to be. The same thing in business. It's the same exact thing. You know, if you see some business that you want, you got to go tell them. You got to say, hey, look, I want my services to. I want you to actually buy my services. This is what we do. This is what we can do for you. And don't let up. Don't let up. It's the same It's the same process. It's the same technique. Whether you're in business, whether you're an employee, you have to advertise what you have. You have to advertise your skills. And if you're not going to really put the effort into it, and you just want to do it for the paycheck, you know, that's fine too. Just show up and just get the paycheck. But I guarantee you this: you'll stay where you are. I guarantee you this: that no one is going to really consider you for anything. If anything, they're going to consider to fire you when the time comes they have to fire people. But like I said before, you know, try to let people know where you want to be. Have that frank discussion, and it's got to be an open discussion. But the key thing is, like I said before in other broadcasts, understand how the company makes money and try to move up that track. The person that brings in the money is a person that can't let go. You're not gonna let people go that bring you in money. It's like cutting off an arm or a leg. Who's gonna do something like that? You're just not gonna do that. So try to understand the flow of the money, how the company makes money, the new products that the company is coming out with, recommend other products, other services. Always stay in that loop. Always stay on the pursuits. How the company is actually filling up its pipeline, who's in the pipeline. You know, you got to go to people and you got to ask them these kind of questions. Get that kind of knowledge, and then don't be afraid to actually bring money into the company. It's gonna benefit you so tremendously if you can do this. The same thing in business. You know, you want the guy. Okay, do you want to hire the guy who just comes to work every day and goes home every day, or you want to hire the guy that says, hey, look, I think we could sell these services. I think we could sell these products into a different market. I got these new ideas. We want to push those to the market. That's the guy that most of the time you want to hire. It's not the guy that's like sitting back being lazy and whatever. That's not the guy. So, like I said before, it's a negotiation, and you have to understand that it is a negotiation. Don't think that you're just there to show up. I know they can make you feel like that, but you're gonna have to change the dynamic and say, hey, look. Every day when I come in, I'm working towards this goal, and everybody knows I'm working toward this goal. That's the difference. Nobody knew who you were working for, or you were working for a goal before, but now everybody knows. It's just obvious. This is what this guy is about. This is what he wants, and he's not going to stop. He's not going to relent. She's not going to relent until she gets what she wants. That's the guy that they're looking for. That's the guy that has the fire. That's the guy that has the passion to actually move that company forward. So, I'm hoping that I can really help in our thinking when it comes to your position as an employee. Show that energy, show that passion, show that you don't want to be complacent, because to an employer, a person that's being complacent has less value. I'm just being honest with you. That complacent guy who's like, I'm okay. Look, I'm just gonna show up anytime. When you need me to show up, I'm gonna do what you tell me to do, and blah 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 blah. I mean, to be honest with you, okay, if that's you, then okay, fine, it's you. But you're not gonna be as valuable as that guy who shows the passion and wants to actually want the ball. He wants that ball and do that little. Fake or whatever and sprint down the field and slam the ball on the ground and celebrate as a touchdown. That's the guy that they want. So I'm hoping that you hear me on this, and I'm hoping that you kind of change the way you actually look at your employment situation. Because when you're an employer, you look at things from the reverse situation. You're looking for that guy that's that superstar, that animal, that beast. You're always looking for him or her. So that's it when it comes to the negotiation part. I want to talk a little bit about, I want to be real brief because I'm a little late today. I did some things in my schedule today that I should not have done, kind of pushed me off a bit. But let's talk about the business side for a little bit. There's some things that you can do under the CARES Act that I don't see a lot of people talking about, but these things are a real law that's been placed into action here. One is if you have leasehold improvements, before you could not get the bonus depreciation on those leasehold improvements. So now if you got improvements, like fixing walls, fixing reconstruction or whatever to your office lease or whatever to your office, you can actually take accelerated depreciation on those items. I'm working on a couple of big cases now where there's been a lot of renovation. So they can actually take those renovation costs sooner than later. Before, they would have to take them over 15 years. But you can just take those costs immediately now. So those are deductions that can actually save you on your taxes. And basically, you can actually go back to the 2018 year and actually amend returns for 2018 to actually put these rapidly accelerating depreciation items on your tax returns. You would have to amend for 2018, but the CARES Act allows you to do some of that stuff. Let me see. There's a couple other things before we close. Already said about the deferring the payroll taxes. There's a provision that you can actually delay the payroll taxes up to 2 years as far as making your deposits. Also, there's a credit. There's also certain credits you can use if you did not get the PPP. There are some employee tax credits that you can use up to 50% of wages. You can take a credit for those if you did not get the PPP. You can't do both. You can get both on a deferral of the payroll taxes if you do get the PPP. The last act actually allowed that to happen. Let's see here. There's quite a few other things, like for example NOLs. You can carry back NOLs if you're in a loss position. You can carry back those NOLs to prior years and get immediate relief by getting a check in the mail. If for example, if you had tremendous losses in 2020, for example, you can actually go back 5 years. You go back 5 years and years that you actually pay taxes and get refunds for those taxes, and you can go forward for an infinite number of years. So the CARES Act allowed you to go back 5 years. The job cuts and job tax cuts and Job Act legislation that came out for 2018 only allowed you to go back 2 years, but with the CARES Act you can go back 5 years. Those are some of the things from a business perspective, some of the things that really people kind of lose sight of. If you have retirement, you can actually take out the retirement as long as we have in the coronavirus situation. I think it occurs until the end of the year. You can actually withdraw the money without a penalty. I believe it's up to $100,000. You can actually withdraw it without a penalty. This might be a time to withdraw money out of your retirement plans if you have retirement plans that you want to take out money for some reason. Now is the time to do it. You won't have that penalty, and you can actually defer the taxes on the amount of money that you take out. You can defer the taxes. I think it's 3 years that you can actually defer those taxes. So they got some really cool stuff as far as the CARES Act is concerned that a lot of people kind of miss. The NOLs and the bonus depreciation, or the depreciation on qualified leasehold improvements, are going to be huge. And if I were you, I would go back to look at my 18 tax returns to see whether you have leasehold improvements, because they're actually depreciating at a slower rate. Take the rate that you could take the cost immediately if you go back and amend the returns. So I know I said a lot here today, and I know I started kind of late, so I'm going to wrap this up right now. But in the future, I'm going to start looking at some things that that we can do to actually, I would say, benefit or give some possible solutions to what could this country actually do for people who have been victimized by police, and I'm talking in particular black people, how they can be, how this country can actually help from a monetary perspective. I'm not going to get into the political stuff. I'm going to stay in my lane, but we're going to talk about monetarily what can be done. There's some great solutions out there, and I think that if this country is really serious about it, if the leaders of this country are very serious about what they can do, there's plenty that they can do besides taking down statues. I mean, quite frankly, it's nice to take down a statue, but a statue doesn't help homelessness. The statue doesn't help poverty. The statue doesn't help the miseducation of our youth. statutes don't really help us. I mean, it's a good gesture, um, but I mean, let's as leaders, let's not get caught up on just removing statutes, because that doesn't help in the reality of our situation. Just to relieve it, just to remove a statute. I could be wrong, but and I am wrong at times, but I don't see the direct correlation between um, removing statues and economic power in our communities. So I want to talk about the real things that could really benefit us from a financial standpoint, and kind of leave the other things like the statues and other things to the experts. That's just not my field, I don't want to really spend my time wondering how a statute is actually going to help or hurt us. I mean, if people want statues, that's on them. I mean, I've seen all kinds of statues all my life, and I'll be honest with you, I could give 2 cents I can give 2 cents about some statute. The statute is not going to do anything for me, and it never will do anything for me. It might do something for other people, but from our standpoint, hey, you're coming up short. It just doesn't help us. So, in the future, I'm going to talk about some of the solutions that we can do, this country can do, that could help us economically. And of course, with the economics, how this can really help us from a social standpoint. So stay tuned. Well, we'll probably start getting into some of those things next week. I've been doing a lot of studying on certain proposals, and there's a few that I want to present and get some feedback on. And then we can take those to Congress, leadership, or whatever, and see whether they're serious about it. It's time now. Let's take this momentum to actually make some change. But that change is gonna happen when we stand up and we take the matters into our own hands. Some people are gonna do what they're gonna do. We can't force people to change. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. But we can change. We can do things that could benefit us. So we have to think a little bit selfish this time and just say, hey, look, it's about us this time. It's about what we can get out of things. Remember the relationship or the negotiation that I talked about before? Then we got to do some serious negotiating with this country, and really try to get rid of some of the economic ills and the social ills that have been plaguing us for a long time that everybody wants to ignore. Now is not the time to do that. Now is the time for us to get up and do something. So I'm gonna stop right there. I got my cue here. The phone just rang, so I'm gonna stop, and we'll regroup next week. And I just want to make this exciting. Next week I'm going to be really fired up about some of the things we talk about. I'm always going to give you that business slant, though. I'm going to give you the employee slant, and to help us to really improve ourselves as a people. Till that time, I'll see you next week. Stay safe.
Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emery and Associates.
What is this? The IRS?
We know that your tax preparation requires more than just the basics.
Hi, I'm Troy Emery, and I've spent my entire professional career helping taxpayers in a variety of tax issues. Let us show you how to confront and solve tax issues with every viable option under the law.
Call the tax team at TD Emery and Associates now.
Hi, I'm Troy Emery. Here at TD Emery and Associates, we offer a wide variety of business tax services for small and large companies, including corporations and partnerships, nonprofits, and real estate taxation. Also, we offer audits, compilations, and reviews.
Let our knowledgeable staff at TD Emery and Associates help you optimize your tax benefits today. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emery and Associates.